Begin the Gemara today on Vav Aleph, right at the beginning of the Yamud. So here the Gemara is giving an answer to a question that was asked regarding being boil betchila b'Shabbos. The first time Chas and Kala have a relation, first bia. So the Gemara had a whole list of different details whether this would be allowed or not allowed on Shabbos. So just to review, B'Kitzur, the point over here, the point B'Kitzur was, what happens by the first bia? So there's two potential malachas that could be possibly taking place. One is a chabura, that a person is creating a wound, which is the malacha of sheichit, netilas neshama. Or what could be taking place is creating a pesach, creating an opening, which is the malacha of baina. And then the Gemara brought a few svaras. One svara was ein mechaven. He's not necessarily having kavanah to do the malacha. So there's an argument between Rab Shimon and Rab Yehuda whether that's allowed or not. Another svara the Gemara said was that he's mekalkal. Maybe what he's doing is creating a kilkul. It's a destructive act. It's not constructive. No, so therefore, there's also not necessarily a problem. Okay, so and the Gemara brought more svaras, but those are some of the svaras that the Gemara mentioned before. So here the Gemara brings the answer to this question. B'vei Rav. So in the yeshiva of Rav, Omri, they would say as follows: Rav Shari. Rav says it's allowed to be boil on Shabbos the first time. Shmuel asar, but Shmuel says it's not allowed. B'Nerda Omri. However, in the city of Nerda, which is Rashi says, Nerda is the place where Shmuel was the Rav there. So there they would say in the reverse, Rav asar. Rav's the one that said it's not allowed. Shmuel Shari, and Shmuel is the one that said that it is allowed. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak v'simanech, if you want to have a simon to remember these opinions that were just mentioned, basically it's as follows. Elu mekilin la'atzman ve'elu mekilin la'atzman. Each one of these groups, they were lenient for themselves. In the yeshiva of Rav, where they have to paskin like Rav, so they were lenient and said that Rav said that it's allowed. And in the city of Shmuel, where they're paskining like Shmuel, they said no, Shmuel was the one that was lenient. So this is the simon to remember these opinions that were just mentioned. But the Gemara now asks on this, V'Rav Shari, can you say that Rav allows to be boil on Shabbos for the first time? But V'Ha'omar Rav Shimi bar Chizkiya Mishmei de Rav, Rav Shimi bar Chizkiya said, following halacha in the name of Rav, Hai Misuchraya de Nazyaisa. This hole, this spout that there is in a barrel. Let's say you have a barrel of wine, and usually there's a spout at the bottom, and there's a hole there, and you want to clog it up. So what do? You put in some rags or a piece of cloth to clog it up. Is this allowed to be clogged up this way on Shabbos or on Yontif? So he said, Aser la'aduke b'yom mitava. You're not allowed to tighten in, put in there a piece of cloth to clog it on Yontif, and the same on Shabbos. Why not? Because this is a malacha of schita, you're being seichet. What happens is when you push it in tightly, it absorbs the wine or whatever's in the barrel, and it squeezes out a little bit from this garment or this cloth or rag, whatever it is. So what do you see over here? That even though when he's putting in this rag in this hole, he's not trying to be seichet, he's not trying to do schita, it just happens. Nevertheless, Rav says it's not allowed. So that proves that Rav holds that Eina Mechaven is Aser. Even when you do malacha and you're not intending to do the malacha, it's still Aser. So the Gemara's question is, the same should be over here regarding being boiled the first time on Shabbos. Even if you're going to say that he's not being Mechaven to make a Chabura, or he's not being Mechaven to make a Pesach, but nevertheless it should still be Aser, like Rav said over here regarding this case. And says the Gemara, Bahahu, that case is different. Over there, Afilat Rab Shimon Maida, even Rab Shimon, which is the source, the one that says that Ein Mechaven is allowed, he would be Maida there that it's Aser. Why? As we've mentioned before already, the Abaye v'Rav Adamri Tarvayu. Abaye and Rav both said, Maida Rab Shimon b'psik reish v'layamos. Rab Shimon would agree in a case where it's inevitable that the malacha will happen, and the Lashon Gemara always uses this, psik reish v'layamos. Could you take a chicken and cut off its head and expect it to live? No, it's inevitable that it'll die. So too, if you do this malacha, or you do this act by placing these rags into the hole of this barrel, it's for sure going to squeeze out some of the wine from these rags. And therefore, even if it's ein mechaven, it's aser. Whereas, over here, benegeh to being boil b'tchila b'Shabbos, so Rashi already mentioned this before, and the Gemara will mention it later, it is possible to be boil without creating any chabura and without blood. It is possible. So therefore, it's not psik reisha. So over here, Rav allows that this should be done on Shabbos. But now the Gemara has another question. Going back again to being boil b'tchila on Shabbos. V'ha Rav Chiya bar Ashi Amar Rav. Rav Chiya bar Ashi said in the name of Rav that halacha Rabbi Yehuda, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda that eina mechaven, you do a malacha without kavana, it's still aser. Rav Chanan bar Ami Amar Shmuel. Rav Chanan bar Ami said in the name of Shmuel halacha Rabbi Shimon. Shmuel is the one that said that the halacha is like Rabbi Shimon, that eina mechaven is mutter. And Rav Chiya bar Avin, Gemara brings just another version of the same thing here in the name of Rav and Shmuel, but Rav Chiya bar Avin masni lo b'loy gavri. He taught this halacha of Rav and Shmuel, not that other Amoraim said it in the name of Rav and Shmuel, but Rav and Shmuel themselves said this. Rav Amar halacha Rabbi Yehuda, Rav paskent like Rabbi Yehuda, and Shmuel Amar halacha Rabbi Shimon, and Shmuel paskent like Rabbi Shimon. So what's the question? If Rav says that the halacha is like Rabbi Yehuda, that einu mechaven is aser, so again the question is, how could Rav say that you're allowed to be boil betchila on Shabbos? That's what they said in the yeshiva of Rav. That's Rav's opinion. How could it be? Answers the Gemara, based on what we already learned before, there could be other reasons why it would be mutter. The truth is, Rav taka paskins like Rav Yehuda, that generally, when you get to the malachas of Shabbos, einoi mechaven, even without an intention to do the malacha, it's still going to be aser. Now going back to what we said before, there were two versions regarding what happens when a person's boil on Shabbos. So one version says, the Omar dam mifked pokid. The blood that there is, it comes out when a person's boiled the first time, that blood is not absorbed in the womb of the woman. Rather, it's like there, it's like blood that's in a sack that's there, and it's like a reservoir, okay? And you open it up and it comes out. And therefore, there is no chabura. And mekalkalu etzla pesach. The only malacha that there would be is that you're creating an opening. But even this opening that you're creating, it's a destructive act. Because before she was a basula, now she's a ba'ula. When she becomes a ba'ula, she goes down in her status. So it's just a destructive act. And therefore, you're going to be potter. So in other words, Rav could hold like Rabbi Yehuda, that Ein Mechaven is aser. But here there's another reason that it's mutter. Because even Rabbi Yehuda agrees that mekalkal, anytime you do a malach on Shabbos and it's mekalkal, it's destructive, it's allowed. And l'hach lishne, according to the other version the Gemara mentioned before, the amad dam chiburi michba, that the blood that comes out was absorbed in the body of the woman, and you are creating a wound by bringing out this blood. But still, mekalkal b'chaburuhu. You're creating a kilkel, you're doing something destructive when you're making this chabura. And according to one opinion that we brought before, which is Rabbi Yehuda says mekalkel b'chabura is just like any mekalkel by any other malacha, and it's going to be mutter. That's the reason why Rav says it's allowed. So therefore, the opinion of Rav is understood even if Rav holds any mechaven is aser, because here there's another issue, the issue of mekalkel. So that's why it's mutter. Most of Rav Chisda asked a question. Now this question of Rav Chisda is going to be on the version that said before that Shmuel's opinion is that it's aser. So he asked on Shmuel that said that it's aser. So it says in the Mishnah, this is a Mishnah in Masechta Nida, it says as follows. Tinoikes shalohigia zmano lirais. A young girl that her time of seeing blood has not yet arrived. And Rashi says she didn't come to the age of Nu'urim, in other words, before 12 years old, and she doesn't have any period and no blood. So what happens now? Venisis. But she did get married already. So now she gets married, so there's two things. There could be two different bloods that come out of the woman's body. There's one blood that's called dam nida, which comes from deeper inside the body, from the womb of the woman. And then there's dam besulim, which is the blood that comes out when you rupture the besulim, and then blood comes out. Now the halacha of dam nida and dam besulim is not the same. Dam nida, the minat Torah, at least it's not the same. I mean, today we treat it both in the same way. But dam besulim, dam nida, she's going to be tamei for 7 days. Dam besulim, you're not tamei for 7 days. Dam besulim doesn't have the same halacha b'chlal. Now the question is, she got married, and after the first biyah, there's dam. When do we know? How do we look at this dam? Do we consider it to be dam besulim or dam nida? So Beishamai say, so the first 4 nights and days, if there's still blood that's flowing, so then we say that this blood is probably from dam besulim. It's not dam nida, because we see what caused the blood to come out in the first place, that it was the bia that brought out this blood, which is dam besulim, and we assume, for the first 4 nights, we assume that whatever continues to flow is still dam besulim. If after those 4 nights there's going to be dam, then we're going to say there's some other source of blood, and she's probably seeing dam nida. Beis Hillel says, it goes even further. Ad shetichya hamaka. Until we see that the wound that happened through the first bia heals up completely, until that point, whatever blood comes out, we assume that the blood is coming from dam besulim and not from dam nida. So this is regarding a girl that's under 12 years old. That's the machlekes b'sham and Beis Hillel. Now, another case. Higias mano lirois v'nisis. If she's already of age, she's already 12 years old, and the time for her to see blood at that age is she's already at that age, but she has never yet seen dam nida. She never had any period of dam nida yet. And v'nisis, and now she gets married. So over here, the halacha is a bit different. Shammai say, only the blood that is the first night after the first bia, that we say is blood that's dam besulim. But following the first night, if there's still blood that's flowing, we say that it's probably dam nida. Again, why? Because here we're speaking about a girl that's already of age. So therefore over here there's more of an assumption to say that whatever blood continues is dam nida. But Beis Hillel say, ad matzah Shabbos arba leilos. That whatever blood continues until Matzah Shabbos, which is 4 nights, because again, we're going with the assumption that when does a woman get married, a basula, she gets married on Wednesday night. Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Matzah Shabbos. So for 4 nights, we consider it still to be a continuation of the flow of the blood of Dam Besulim. Past that, we say that it's going to be Dam Nida.
So you don't need baked in?
1 second. So the question now is, what's the lashon here that Beis Hillel said? Beis Hillel said, Matzah Shabbos arba leilos. Until Matzah Shabbos, 4 nights. My love, when it says here 4 nights, and the Mishnah specifically spells out until Matzah Shabbos, don't you think what this means is the Eloi Baal, that if he was not boil the first night, Matzi Baal, that he could be boil the second night, the third night, which would be Friday night, and not Philip b'Shabbos. What it's saying over here is that he could be boil each one of the nights, and any time there'll be blood, you're going to say that the blood is going to be Dam Sulim and not Dam Nida. That's the point that Beis Hillel was saying. So as Rashi explains, what this means is that could be he was boil the first night, which is Wednesday night, but it wasn't a Bia Gemura. That's the Lashon of Rashi. It wasn't a Ba'ila Gemura. And therefore he's boil again the Thursday night, and then boil again Friday night. And each time he's boil a little bit more, but it was never a Bia Gemura. And even though he's creating a Pesach, or he's creating more of a Chabura when he's being boil, he's allowed to be boil on Shabbos. So I see over here in the Lashon of this Mishnah that you are allowed to be boil the first bia on Shabbos. So Rava answers and says, no, that's not how you have to understand that Mishnah. Loi, levar mi Shabbos. Yeah, he could be boil Wednesday night, Thursday night, but Matzah Shabbos as well, but not Friday night. It was not referring to Shabbos. Shabbos, you're not allowed. Like Shmuel said, if we want to explain how Shmuel would fit with this Mishnah, it's besides Shabbos. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye says, that doesn't make sense if you look into the words of the Mishnah. V'ha ad moitzoi Shabbos arba leilos ketani. There's some extra words here in this Mishnah. The Mishnah doesn't just say that Beis Hillel said that for 4 nights the blood that comes out is still dam besulim and not dam nida. Beis Hillel adds and says, ad moitzoi Shabbos. Why is he adding those words ad Matzah Shabbos? It's obvious if you count for Wednesday night until Matzah Shabbos, that Matzah Shabbos is when it's 4 nights. He's adding Matzah Shabbos seemingly to say that each one of these nights are the same, that it could be boiled each one of these nights, including Shabbos. So therefore Rava says, so the pshat is actually different. Keshe Baal, he was already fully boiled, a Bia Gemura, fully boiled a Bia Gemura on the first night, on Wednesday night. And the following nights, he could be boiled again, but there's not going to be any, he's not creating any Pesach, he's not creating any Chabura. He was fully boiled already on the first night. And that's what it means of Chanami. He could be boiled again every single one of the following nights, but he's not, the fact that he's being boiled on Friday night, there's no issue, because he was already fully boiled on the first night, so he's not doing any malacha.
No Chabura.
Right, no Chabura, no Pesach. Fragt the Gemara, but if that's the case, so if he was already fully boiled the first night, so then what is the chiddush when the Mishnah uses this lashon ad moitzoi Shabbos? Again, that's the focus over here, the Gemara. These extra word of ad moitzoi Shabbos. Why is he using those words? If he was already boiled bil Gemara, the fact that it could be boiled even Friday night, there's no chiddush in this. Answers the Gemara, there is a chiddush. Kamash Malon, the Shari Lemivol b'Shabbos, there is a chiddush that he's allowed to be boiled on Friday night, even if he was fully boiled the first night. Kiddush Shmuel, Similar to a halacha that Shmuel said regarding a Pesach, an opening that a person makes when he goes through into a physical binyan, in a structure. Shmuel said as follows. Pirza de chukah. If you have this breach, that's the chukah, that's not a very large opening, and you have to squeeze your way through. And a person wants to enter into this through this breach on Shabbos. Mutili kanes ba b'Shabbos. You're allowed to enter through it on Shabbos. V'afal pi shemeish tzreiris. Even though while you enter, you may pull off some pebbles or some. It's not such a wide opening, so you may pull off some pebbles that are there on the wall and create a wider opening by entering through this breach. Nevertheless, you're allowed to do this on Shabbos. Why? Because it's not 100% sure that you'll create any more of an opening. And so therefore it's einu mechaven. You're not intending to make the opening wider, and it's not psik reish either. It's not for sure that it's going to widen this opening. So it's the same thing over here. The chiddush over here is you may have thought even after a person was bayal of bila gemura on Wednesday night, but then maybe when it comes Friday night, since this Pesach is a fresh Pesach and it still may be considered a pirza de chukah, when you're going to be bayal again on Friday night, he is still rupturing and he's creating more of a Pesach, and it's still somewhat of a malacha, and therefore that's the chiddush of this Mishnah to say that it could be bayal even on Friday night. Masav Rav Yosef asks another question. Again, this is a question on the version we had before, the opinion of Shmuel that says that it's awesome to be bayal on Friday night. So the Mishnah says, Chassan, or it's a Braisa maybe, Chassan patem b'kriyas Shema. A chassan is pater of reading Kriya Shema Laila Arishain, the first night when he gets married. So he's pater of reading Kriya Shema, and the reason is because he's so preoccupied, he's so torrid with the tirda of the mitzvah that he has. And the halacha is if you're Isaac in one mitzvah, you're pater of another mitzvah. So therefore, in the Laila Arishain, he doesn't have to read Kriya Shema. So it's the first night ad Matzah Shabbos. Until Matzah Shabbos, he's still torrid with the tirda of the mitzvah. So he's pater of reading Kriya Shema. And the Braisa says, what does this mean? Why until Matzah Shabbos? Im loy asa ma'aseh. If he didn't yet do an action, if he didn't yet have any relation with his wife, so then he's still tied with the tirda of the mitzvah. So therefore he's pater from Kriya Shema. So my love, don't you think, what does this mean here? The Torah, that he's preoccupied with the mitzvah he has, the boil and mival, that he still has the mitzvah to be boil, and therefore he's going to be pater from Kriya Shema. Now this includes even Friday night. So we see that even Friday night he's going to be pater from Kriya Shema because he has to be bayal, and he's allowed to be bayal even Friday night. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye says, no, maybe the pshat is different. Loi, pshat is the torid, the loy bal, that he's torid, he's preoccupied with the fact that he has to do the mitzvah, and he cannot be bayal on Friday night. But even if he can't, but the very fact that he has tsar from this, that he can't be boiled Friday night and he has to wait until the following night, that's the reason why his mind is not clear to be able to do a mitzvah. So it's not only because he's actually preoccupied that he's going to be doing a mitzvah tonight, even if he's not going to be doing a mitzvah, but the very fact that he knows that he has to wait and he has tsar, that's the reason why he's going to be pater from the mitzvah.
Because of his daigot,
that's what it says. Let's see what the Gemara says. Amalei Rava. So Rava asks on this, is that the case, that when a person has tsar, and that's going to pater him from Kriya Shema? If a person is preoccupied with something else, he has tsar about something else, he'll be pater from a mitzvah. So if so, what's if a person had a tremendous financial loss? He had a boat that sunk in the sea. The pater, so you're going to say because of this financial loss and because of this distress, he's going to be pater from Kriya Shema? And if you'll argue and say, no, maybe taka that should be the halacha. When a person can't focus on saying Kriya Shema, he's pater from Kriya Shema. But we know that that's not the halacha. Why? Because oval, which is mourning and is in pain, but nevertheless he has to fulfill all mitzvahs in the Torah, including Kriya Shema. Chutz minat tefillin. The only mitzvah he's pater from is tefillin. Shenema behen pe'er. Since regarding tefillin, the pasuk refers to the tefillin. And Rashi brings the pasuk here, pe'er chachav v'shalecha, that you have a pe'er, the beauty, the splendor of tefillin. So that's not appropriate for a oval, so a oval doesn't put on tefillin. But other than the mitzvah of tefillin, a oval is mechuyev in all mitzvahs. So what do we see from here? That even while a person is mourning and suffering, nevertheless it doesn't pater you from any mitzvahs. So how could Abaye say that over here, this person is going to be pater from doing the mitzvah of Kriya Shema because he's torod, because he's having pain from the fact that he did not fulfill the mitzvah yet, and he has to wait another night because it's Friday night. That can't be. Elo Amar Rava. So therefore Rava says This brayso we just quoted about the chassan is actually a very good raya that you could be boil on a Friday night, and therefore Rava says tanoihi. This question whether you could be boil Friday night or not is a machlekes tanoim, and he brings two braysos. Tanachad in one brayso we learned im loyasa ma'isa b'rishayin, if he didn't have any relation on the first night, potter, so he's potter reading Kriya Shema that night, and potter av b'sheni. He's potter also on the second night because he's still Torah the second night, that he has to be boil on the second night. Then b'sheni, if he was not boil on the second night, potter af b'shlishi. He'll be potter also on the third night, which is Friday night. So we see here in this brayso that why is he potter on Friday night? Because he could and has to be boil Friday night, so he has the mitzvah Friday night, so he's potter from Kriya Shema. That's one brayso. However, in another brayso we learned Rishon v'Sheni potter. The first and second night, which is Wednesday night and Thursday night, he's potter from Kriya Shema because he has the mitzvah and he could do the mitzvah, so he's potter. Shlishi, the third night though, Friday night, chayev. He'll be chayev to read Kriya Shema because you're not allowed to be boil on Friday night. So you see from here clearly, according to Rava's interpretation, that this question is a machlekes. Abaya, however, so Abaya was the one that said before that no, Friday night you can't be boil. Abaya was trying to defend Shmuel's opinion that Friday night you can't be boil. And Abaya said before that the pshat that why a chassan is still potter is because he has a tsar, because of the mitzvah that he can't fulfill and he has to wait another night for the mitzvah. So how does Abaya explain these two braises here? So Abaye will tell you, Hasam Nami Betir de Pligi. In these two braises, the argument regarding whether you potter from Kriya Shema Friday night or not is also regarding Tirde, meaning that do I say that when a person is taught for a mitzvah that he cannot fulfill tonight, and he has tsar that he cannot fulfill the mitzvah, will he be potter from Kriya Shema? That's what the argument is about. Not whether he's allowed to be boil or not. No, the argument is whether this tsar that you cannot fulfill the mitzvah, does that pat you from the mitzvah of Kriya Shema. So Rashi here adds to the Gemara, didn't we bring before two strong rayas to this, that even when a person has tsar, still you have to do a mitzvah. If a person's boat is sunk in the sea, or if a person is an oval, you still have to do every mitzvah. What would Abaya answer to those questions? So Rashi here answers and says, those things, when a person has tsar from a boat that sunk, or when a person has tsar in the time of Avelus, that's a tsar of a matter which is a reshus, of something personal. Over here we're talking about a tsar related to a mitzvah. Maybe a tsar that comes from a mitzvah is different. That patters you from Kriya Shema. That patters you from doing another mitzvah. And Rashi adds another interesting point. Benegei to Avelos, you might say Avelos is also Avelos is a mitzvah. It's not just a personal thing. There's a mitzvah of Avelos for the covet of the mace. But Avelos and tsar are not the same thing. Avelos is mourning, and tsar is pain. That you feel pain and suffering. That's a different thing. Rashi says the Avelos, that's a mitzvah. All the different halachas you have to do for Avelos. You tear the garment and you have to sit on the floor or whatever it is. There's certain things you have to behave with Avelos. But the tsar, that's your own personal thing, that you have tsar of the loss that you're experiencing. And therefore that doesn't pat you of a mitzvah. But over here, the tsar that comes from a mitzvah, that you're still waiting to do the mitzvah, Baya holds that according to one opinion, that will pat you from saying Kriya Shema. Sagt the Gemara weiter, now going back to Rava's opinion, what did Rava say? That there's a machlokes tanoim over here, whether you're allowed to be boil Friday night or not. So now the Gemara brings another source where you see that they argued about this. Vahani tanoi, according to Rava, the braises that we brought here that argued about this, kihani tanoi, it's like the following two tanoim in this braise. The Tanya we learned in the braise. A kindness is a b'sula, a person gets married to a b'sula, lo yuval b'tchila b'Shabbos. He should not be boil the first time in Shabbos. The Chachamim matirim, and the Chachamim say that it's allowed. So right here, we have a clear machlokes in the Braisa about this whole question. Man Chachamim, who are the Chachamim that say that it's allowed? Omar Rabbe, so Rabbe said, Rab Shimoni. The Chachamim are Rab Shimon. The Omar, Dov Shem Miskavim Mutter. That when a malacha happens, and you had no kavanah for this malacha to take place, then it's mutter. So over here, either the malacha would have been making a chabura, or the malacha is that you're making a pesach, but either way, you're not having kavanah to do the malacha, so therefore it's mutter. So here the Gemara finally asks the question that we brought up a few times before. Amalei Abaye, so Abaye asked the question, but v'hamayde Rab Shimon b'psikrei shevelo yamus. Doesn't Rab Shimon agree that in a case where it's inevitable, like in the case of psik reisha, that even if you're having no kavanah, nevertheless, it's still going to be yasser. So over here as well, at this point, the Gemara thinks that when a person is boil, it's inevitable that he's creating a wound or blood is coming out, is creating a pesach. So how could you say that, according to Rab Shimon, this would be allowed? So the Gemara explains that it's not inevitable. Loi kahalalu bavliyim, not like those people of Bavel, she'ein b'kiyim ba'atoya, that when they are boil, they are not expert in hatoya. Hatoya literally means to divert. They don't know how to be boil in a way that it should not cause any blood or cause any wound. Elo yesh b'kiyim ba'atoya. Most people know how to be boil with hatoya and to divert, and therefore not necessarily will there be any blood, not necessarily will there be any wound, and therefore it's not considered to be psik reisha. Hatoya means to divert. That in a way that should be no wound and no Pesach, it creates no Pesach, it doesn't break the bsulim, and there's no blood, and therefore it'll be mutter.
Someone can be an expert on that.
That's what it says here in the Gemara. Not someone, it says yesh b'kiyin, as we'll see here. The Gemara is going to say most people are baki. So the Gemara asks on this, Im kain, if this is the case, that people are baki. Now there's a few ways how to learn this continuation of the Gemara here. I'm going to teach the Gemara according to Rashi's Pshat. Im kain, if you're telling me that people are baki and how to be boil, and not only stama to be boil, but how to be boil even bahatoya, to divert in a way that it should cause no wound and it should cause no blood. So im kain toirid lama. Why did we say before that when a person is boil, that there's a tirde, he's so worried and preoccupied with this to the point that we parted him from saying kriyashma? He's a baki, he's an expert. So it's not something you should be concerned about, B'chlal. Shouldn't take off his mind from the ability to say kriyashma. And says the Gemara, l'she'einoi baki, that when it said before that a person is potter from kriyashma, that's taka only for somebody that's not a baki. So he's going to be potter from kriyashma because for him it's a tirde. Fragt the Gemara, so if so, yoimru baki mutter and she'eina baki aser. So then, what should we say? We should say that a person that's a baki, that knows how to be boil on Shabbos without causing any wound, without causing any blood, so for him it should be mutter. Because for him it should be mutter to be boiled the first time on Friday night. Because for him it's eina mechaven, like Reb Shimon says, and there's no psik reish either, because he's a baki, he's an expert, he can do it in a way where not necessarily will it cause any blood or any pesach. And for someone that's she'eina baki, but for someone that's not a baki, then it should be aser. Because if he's not a baki, so then it's psik reisha, he's definitely going to cause a wound, or he's definitely going to create a pesach, so for him it should be aser. So what's the Gemara's question? The Gemara is asking, why did it say before, chachamim matirin? Chachamim are matir, and they didn't make any distinction who the person is. It should have made this distinction. Depends if you're a baki or not. And it says the Gemara, roiv b'kiyin hein. That most people are baki, so since most people are baki, so therefore the Gemara does not make that distinction. According to most Rishonim, the pshat in this is that because roiv are baki, so the Braisa doesn't make the distinction. But enachanami, for those people that are not baki, it's going to be aser to be boiled the first time on a Friday night. Fragt the Gemara, elamayata. Missed a few words here. Amalei Rove Barav Chanan La Abaye Ela Meyata. If so, there's something that it says later that we learned in the Braisa that's going to be brought here later in the Masechta. Sheshvinin Lama. They have sheshvinin. Sheshvinin literally we call today the unterfirers, but it means that they bring there's someone that accompanies the chassan and the kala to make sure that they're not behaving, that they to make sure that the chassan and the kala, to know that she was a basula, to check, to make sure that there was blood and that she was a basula. So that's one thing that was done. So the question is, why do you need these sheshvinin? How are these sheshvinin going to help you? Mappa lama, or a mappa, when you put a white garment to see, to know if there's going to be blood there or not. How does that help you? What's the Gemara's question? So again, there's a few pshatim here. According to Rashi, the pshat of the Gemara's question is that the husband, if he's a baki, he could be boiled in a way that even if it's the first time he's being boiled, and even if she is a psula, he could be boiled bahatoya, he could divert in a way that there'll be no blood at all. So you're sending sheshvinin, or you're placing a white garment to see if there's going to be blood or not, to prove if she's a basula or not. But either way, even if she is a basula, he can be boiled in such a way that there won't be any blood. So what's the purpose of having sheshvinin or a mappa? That's Rashi's pshat in Gemara. Taisus learns a drop different. Taisus says the Gemara is asking specifically regarding Friday night. Regarding Friday night, where we just said the only reason it's mutter to be boiled Friday night is because you boil in such a way where you don't create a pesach or you don't create any blood that comes out. So we're asking regarding Friday night, having sheshvinin or a map on a Friday night, why is that necessarily? So the Gemara answers, Amalei, there's still a purpose in this. Hasam, the reason why we send sheshvinin or how we have a mappa, Shema Yire V'Yoivad, because maybe, true, a person could be a baki and it could be boiled without any blood by diverting, but nevertheless, what happens if there is blood, and then the person will take that blood, then he will destroy it, and then he'll come and argue and say, she's not a basula. So a person might want to lie about this. So for this purpose, in order for a person not to be able to lie about this, so we have a sheshvinin or we have a mappa to prove, to see if there was blood or not. So there's still a purpose in having the sheshvinin and the mappa there. So the Gemara's conclusion at this point is that according to Rab Shimon, you're allowed to be boiled on a Friday night, and we always paskin like Rab Shimon, by the way, regarding this halacha of Einem Miskaven, that Einem Miskaven is mutter, we paskin like Rab Shimon. So according to the conclusion of the Gemara at this point, it would be mutter to be boiled on a Friday night for the first time. Okay.
Sure.